Hello, goblins. It's Chris, Eldritch Pipes. Welcome to a special double-length episode of Listen with Eldritch. Things conspired last week so that I couldn't do the episode as scheduled. So I thought, why not do them both today? That's what we're going to do. It'll be fun. So today we're doing episode 38 and 39. The first episode deals with the loss of seemingly innocent things, but steadily the implication gets worse and worse. Or is it just the old saying that man is above all a plaything of his memory? And then episode 39 is dealing with things getting out of hand in the Magnus archives. All right, here we go. Episode 38, Lost and Found. Episode 39, Infestation.
Rusty Quill presents The Magnus Archives. Episode 38, Lost and Found. Statement of Andre Romeo regarding a series of misplaced objects lost over the course of 3 months. Original statement given June 6, 2012. Audio recording by Jonathan Sims, head archivist of the Magnus Institute, London. Statement begins. Thank you for lending me your pen. I thanked you when you handed it to me, but I don't know if you'll remember. I wonder, will you forget you lent it to me and believe that it was my pen all along? Maybe instead you'll forget that I ever had one to begin with, and think of me as an idiot who turned up to give a statement without a pen, so you had to lend me yours. My own fault for putting it down, really, assuming I did ever have one. I'll try to keep a slightly closer hold on this one. I've been in the antiques business for a long time. It's not what it used to be. I'm sorry, I know. I always did that. Try to make myself feel more comfortable with jokes. There's a follow-up to that one, you know? Something along the lines of the joke being so old only an antiques dealer would be able to sell it. I love that one. I think it's clever. But in my whole life it's only ever gotten a laugh once. That's why I remember buying the vase so clearly. I remember that the seller laughed. In the old days, I never would have considered buying wares from the likes of Mikhail Salesa. He has a good reputation for quality, but a bad reputation for legality, as it were. I've had more than one acquaintance sell on a particularly valuable find they got from him, only to discover that it didn't have proper import papers, or that it had been reported stolen years before. Charlie Miller even did some jail time over a Georgian brooch he bought off him, so as a general rule I'd have given Salesa's stuff a wide berth, but, well, the antiques business isn't what it used to be. That isn't a joke. I had to close up my shop a few years ago, you see. Actual antiques don't sell to the mass market anymore. Oh, young people will snap up vintage clothes or have any number of cheap faux antique replicas strewn about their living rooms, but as soon as they get a look at the price tag for the real thing, they're out of there like a shot. So I went the same way as a lot of my peers. Lose the premises, start selling only high-margin goods direct to specific clients who can afford them, or shift a few guaranteed sellers on the auction. It's the only real way to stay afloat in the business nowadays, but the competition is intense, and getting the caliber of artifact you need has become a more cutthroat affair. I'm not the only one in the business to recently soften their attitude towards buying from people like Mikhail Salesa. It was my first meeting with him, back in March, and I was nervous, so I told my joke. Just offhand, almost a reflex. I didn't expect any reaction, really. I certainly didn't expect him to laugh. But he did. This sudden, deep, throaty laugh that seemed to come out of nowhere. He didn't say anything afterwards, just continued discussing business, but it stayed with me. There was nothing particularly strange about the laugh, not really. Why do I remember it so clearly? Salesa was taking me through his showroom. There was a fancy-looking sign above the door, but it didn't do much to hide the fact that it was basically a warehouse. Most of the antiques were still in their packing crates, and I couldn't help making a note of how quick and easy it would be for him to pack everything down and disappear if he needed to. Still, I'd made a few good purchases already and was cautiously optimistic. I'd bought a pair of cavalry sabres from the Revolutionary War, absolutely excellent condition, and a British artilleryman's tunic from World War I. A few other bits and pieces as well. I recall I felt a moment of relief that I didn't deal in books, as I caught sight of several crates packed to the brim with heavy-looking volumes. I was looking for something big, though, something that would make an actual dent in the mountain of debt I'd been piling up. I found it in that old Chinese pot. From the Jiajing period, so Salesa said, and the construction seemed to back him up. The glaze and the workmanship fitted with mid to late Ming dynasty, but there was something off about the actual design. Instead of the pictures or scenes common to the ceramics of the period, the blue glaze was painted on in crisp, thin, geometric lines. They repeated perfectly, and seemed to get smaller and more intricate the closer I looked, but the shapes they formed never lost any of the precision, seeming to continue on however closely I looked. The effect was disorientating, and made the vase seem smaller than it actually was. It made my head hurt a bit when I looked at it for too long. It was amazing. When he saw me staring, Salesa clapped me on the back and named a price that almost made me choke. We haggled a bit, and eventually reached a price I considered only a little bit unreasonable. I hurried my purchases home, feeling slightly soiled by my visit to the warehouse, and very much hoping it would be a good few months, if not years, before I was in such dire straits that I needed to go again. I got home, had a shower and some food, and immediately started to look into finding a buyer for my latest acquisitions. I remember I was planning to make a few calls, but my headache got so bad that I had to have an early night. The problems started soon after. It was little things at first, like my shoes. I'm not a particularly fashion-conscious man at the best of times, so I have 3 pairs of shoes. Comfortable loafers for everyday use, a pair of walking boots for hiking, and some well-shined, polished leather brogues for fancier events. Well, I had a rather upmarket auction that I needed to attend, so I went to put on my nice shoes, but they were nowhere to be found. Not the shoes, not the box I kept them in. Instead, there was a bag containing 2 shirts that I know for a fact I threw away the year before. When I asked my husband David about it, he told me point blank that I had never had any such shoes. Claimed I always wore my loafers when I went to auctions or parties. I know that, compared to some of the ghost stories you must hear in this place, a pair of misplaced shoes seems perfectly trivial, but something felt so wrong about the whole situation. In the end, I did go in my loafers. I don't remember if anyone at the auction noticed. It was about a week later that I got the invoice from Salesa. It was a pleasant surprise, far less than I thought we'd agreed on. That feeling lasted until I looked through the itemized list and realized why the cost was so low. He hadn't charged me for the Ming. I'll admit that I was somewhat conflicted over whether to raise the issue, but In the end, I decided that even if Mikhail Salesa did work with thieves, I was not going to be counted among them, so I phoned him to try and explain the mistake. He seemed to be in a fine mood when he answered the phone and asked me if I'd had a chance to try out the sabers yet, which I'm pretty sure was a joke. I told him that there was an item he'd missed off the invoice, and he said that no, everything had been double-checked and was correct. I was getting suspicious at this point and thought he might be trying to pull a fast one of some sort with me. Maybe get me to take the blame for some illicit scheme gone wrong. I told him so in no uncertain terms and described our encounter and the vase in minute detail. He was quiet for a few seconds, and then asked me if I could send him a photo of the pot. His tone was different, and he sounded oddly wary when he made the request. I was very on edge by this point, but could come up with no good reason not to agree, so I took a few pictures with my phone and sent them through to him. It was a long time before he spoke again, and when he did, he sounded different, almost scared, I thought. He told me that I could keep it, no charge. I began to protest again, but he ignored it. I remember his exact words. "I do not remember having that thing, which means it belongs to you." Then he hung up. This was all very strange, of course, but even then I wasn't worried. Not like I should have been. It was my book next. A signed copy of Catch-22, my favorite book. Vanished from its place on the bookshelf, leaving only an empty space behind. David just gave me another blank stare when I asked him about it. I admit I almost lost it at him then. Shoes were one thing, but that book meant a lot to me. I accused him of playing some stupid joke, and tried to remind him what I'd gone through to get it, flying over to America for Joseph Heller's last book tour, queuing for hours, and then that dreadful evening I thought that sudden rainstorm had ruined it all. By the end, he was looking very alarmed indeed, and started to ask me how I was feeling. He wanted to know if I'd been under a lot of stress at work, if there was anything I wanted to talk about. I left. Maybe he was right. Maybe I am crazy. It makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? It would make it neat. Except no. I would need to have gone mad a long, long time ago, before this, for the idea of it being in my head to hold up. My perceptions are the only ones I can trust. Maybe. I don't know. This went on for months. A tie I got for my last birthday, my grandfather's teapot, the tunic I bought from Salesa. Things just kept going missing, and every time David would tell me that whatever it was didn't exist, or it wasn't mine, or I was misremembering. For a while I thought he was actually trying to gaslight me, make me think I was losing my mind. But when the tunic went missing, I called Salesa again. This time he laughed when he told me he didn't remember selling any World War I items to me on my visit. I checked the invoice, and it was no longer listed there. Just empty, accusing paper where the words had been. I know these things were real. I know they existed. Why won't anyone just believe me? This is where I started to come undone a bit. To be honest, I don't think anyone would do much better in my situation. I hadn't made any connection between the old Chinese pot and the disappearances. I mean, why would I? But I also hadn't been able to sell it. Whenever I tried, something would get in the way. The other person would forget to send through a crucial email, or they'd stop responding. Once I managed to get it as far as posting it out to a buyer, but it was returned immediately with a note asking why it had been sent to her. Gradually, I began to get suspicious of the thing. Sitting there, with its cascading, maddening patterns in that vile cobalt blue, trying to tell me that things didn't exist, that they hadn't vanished, when I know they have. I took to watching it. I wasn't getting much sleep, and David was worried sick about me. I know he was talking to various doctors about getting me help. There were certainly a couple of points I was worried about him having me sectioned. None of it helped in the end. It was about a month ago. I had placed the vase in the center of the table and was sat, staring at it, keeping an eye on it, checking for God knows what. This had been my ritual for the previous week, keeping my vigil into the small hours, but that night I fell asleep in front of it. I don't remember my dream. Running, maybe? I know I woke with a start, sometime around 2 in the morning. As I tried to rub the sleep from my eyes, I heard a sound from the table in front of me. It was the dull thump of a heavy book hitting the tabletop. I looked, and sure enough, there was my copy of Catch-22 just lying there, in front of that strange ceramic thing, and not just my book. There was a small pile of objects around the base, my shoes, a tie, things I don't even remember losing. One by one they rose up out of the mouth of the vase and tumbled to the table. It didn't matter how big they were. They all seemed to fit. And then came the moment when everything had been disgorged. I saw all the things that I had lost, and I thought it must be over. It must be done. What else could possibly come out of there? And I saw the pale shapes of long, thin fingertips begin to creep above the lip of the pot. I remember thinking that it couldn't be a normal person living in that pot, because the fingernails were too dirty. Isn't that an odd thing to think at a time like that? I ran, of course, turned around and sprinted out of the door and into the street, and didn't return until morning. Maybe I should have called the police, but I was in no state to do much of anything except shiver under a tree for hours. David was gone. I allowed myself some brief hope that maybe he'd just left me. Maybe he'd escape with just a divorce. But no. One call to the housing association confirmed that as far as they were concerned, I'd always lived alone. I want to smash that thing. I want to dash its maddening patterns to the ground and stomp on it until there is nothing left but powder. But it's also disappeared, of course. I can't find it anywhere. It's still taking things, though. Sorry about your pen. Statement ends. Before I dig too deeply into the background of this statement, I feel I should mention something that puts much of it in a slightly different light. Tim actually managed to find a copy of Mr. Romeo's marriage license. It exists, is signed, dated, and official, and half of it is blank. Only Mr. Romeo's details are on the document, and if it wasn't for the context of this statement, it would appear he was married to nobody. But he was married. This is not the first time Mikhail Salesa's name has come to the attention of the Institute. Even discounting the incidental role he played in case 01120905, he appears to have something of a knack for locating objects displaying more disconcerting phenomena. I believe some of the more bizarre things in the artifact storage area were purchased from him. It has been something of a... I see you. Ha! Oh, whoa! A spider.
A spider?
Yeah, I tried to kill it, the shelf collapsed.
I swear, cheap cells are just... Did you get it?
I hope so. Think so. Nasty looking thing.
Well, I won't tell Martin.
Oh, God. I don't think I could stand another lecture on their importance to the ecosystem. What?
Look.
Oh. Got dented when the shelf collapsed, I guess?
No, it goes right through. I thought this was an exterior wall.
It should be.
I think it's just plasterboard. Do you see anything?
No, I don't think so. Sasha, run. Run!
The Magnus Archives is a podcast distributed by rustyquill.com and licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike International License. Today's episode was written and performed by Jonathan Sims. It was produced by Alexander J. Newell and Mike LeBeau, and directed by Alexander J. Newell. To comment on episodes, make donations and view links, images, videos, and show notes, visit rustyquill.com. Rate and review us on iTunes, visit us on Facebook, tweet us on Twitter at The Rusty Quill, or email us at mail@rustyquill.com. Thanks for listening. Rusty Quill presents The Magnus Archives. Episode 39, Infestation.
Shut up and get the extinguishers! What? The CO2! Get the goddamn CO2! Right. Now!
Right, yep. Oh, too many.
Just keep
We need to go.
Where?
Let me think.
Do you see Prentice?
I don't see her.
John!
This way! Come on, this way!
Look out!
There we go, recording again. Did you get it?
There! And I just want to point out that I didn't make this much of a fuss.
I think your removal was substantially cleaner.
I'm still not sure why you have this. Drinking in the archives?
What? No, it's for worms.
What?
Well, for pulling the worms out of people, like now.
You, what?
I used to carry around a knife, but I started thinking that, well, cutting into someone laterally wasn't really the most efficient way to get them out, and besides which, they seem to be quite slow burrowing in a straight line, so, given their size, the corkscrew just seemed to be the better option. Look, you guys got to go home every day, okay? I didn't. I've been thinking for a long time about what to do when, well, you know, this happens.
Well, thank you.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. The room's sealed. I checked it myself when I moved in.
Climate controlled as well, strong door, soundproof. These old files are far better protected than we ever were. All right. I'll grant you it's a good place to lay low, but...
They could still come in through the aircon.
Not easily. And not en masse. It is actually safe. Ha! Except, of course, that we're trapped.
Yeah. Sorry.
Why record it?
What?
Before, in the office. It was stupid going for the tape recorder like that. And then when you dropped it out there...
I said I was sorry. If I'd known Martin had another one stashed in here, I never would have...
It's fine. I just don't understand. I thought you hated the damn thing. You're always going on about it.
I do. I did. I don't want to become a mystery. I refuse to become another goddamn mystery.
What?
Look, even if you ignore the walking soil sack out there and the fact that we are probably minutes from death, there is still so much more happening
I'm not
here.
entirely sure that we can ignore
Every real statement just leads deeper into something I don't even know the shape of yet. And to top it all, I still don't know what happened to Gertrude. Officially, she's still missing. But Elias is no help, and the police were pretty clear that the wait to call her dead is just a formality. If I die, worm food or something else, whatever, I'm going to make damn sure the same doesn't happen to me. Whoever takes over from me is going to know exactly what happened.
You don't think that would put them off?
I hope so. Only an idiot would stay in this job.
Wouldn't that make you an idiot?
Yes, Martin, that was my point.
Can you see what's going on out there?
Ish. When did we last clean these doors?
What can you see?
Worms seem to have backed off a bit. There's a few lurking in the corners. Oh, hey, there's the other tape recorder.
Any sign of Prentice?
No, it looks like they're waiting, I think.
For what?
I don't know. Tim, maybe?
Oh, God.
I think he was out at lunch.
Quick, someone call him. Tell him not
There's
to come
no
back
signal
inside.
in here. We just have to hope he heard the noise.
John, what did you mean by real statements?
You know what I mean. The ones that have weird wrinkles. Well, they just seem to have something solid to them. They all have one thing in common.
They don't record digitally.
And we have to use the tape recorder. At this stage, if it records to my laptop, I almost don't bother.
There, I see him.
What?
Tim. Tim's outside.
Oh, God, he doesn't know. He doesn't see them.
Tim,
Look out!
It's soundproof.
Tim!
He can't hear you.
What is he doing? No, Tim, just run. Leave it alone.
No.
Oh, God, turn around. Just turn around.
God, there she is.
Oh, screw this.
Wait, Sasha, no!
Tim, look out!
Watch out for the tape!
Working? Okay, test. What are you doing on the floor? Statement of Joe Spooky regarding sinister happenings in the downtown.
Tim, look out!
Sasha?
Behind you, run!
Oh.
Right. There we go. Martin, what do you see?
What?
I can't really stand up yet. I need you to describe what's going on, for the record.
Yeah, sure. So, Sasha tackled Tim, and there was a kind of struggle, but she made it out of the archives. That was about 2 minutes ago, and she's gone to get help. Probably, I mean, she couldn't, she wouldn't just run, so...
Did it look like any of the worms got her before she left?
No, I don't think so. Tim neither, I think. It was hard to tell after she tackled him. There was a lot of movement and shouting and wriggling.
Stay with it, Martin. Tim. What happened to Tim?
They got split up and he ran into the office. And you said that's where you made the hole. When you were recording, and they all came through, so... He's dead. He's dead in there, and he's covered in worms.
We
That's
don't
it.
know that.
Maybe he found the spare CO2.
Spare? What? Where? I never saw
Oh,
any.
I hid them in old case file boxes.
What? Why?
Well, so the worms didn't know they were there. Look, I know it's stupid.
Yes, it is. They're just unclassified parasites. They don't have consciousness, they can't plan, they're just an unthinking infection.
Seriously?
What?
Why do you do that?
Do what?
Push the skeptic thing so hard. I mean, it made sense at first, but now, after everything we've seen, after everything that you read, I hear you recording statements and you just dismiss them. You tear them to pieces like they're wasting your time. But half of the rational explanations you give are actually far more far-fetched than just accepting it was a a ghost or something. I mean, for God's sake, John, we are literally hiding from some kind of worm queen thing. How could you possibly still not believe?
Of course I believe. Of course I do. Have you ever taken a look at the stuff we have in artifact storage? That's enough to convince anyone. But even before that, why do you think I started working here? It's not exactly glamorous. I've always believed in the supernatural. Within reason, I mean. I still think most of the statements down here aren't real. Of the hundreds I've recorded, we've had maybe 30, 40 that go on tape. Now those, I believe, at least for the most part.
Then why do
Because
you
I'm scared, Martin. Because when I record these statements, it feels like I'm being watched. I lose myself a bit, and then when I come back, it's like if I admit there may be any truth to it, whatever's watching will know somehow. The skepticism, feigning ignorance, it just felt safer.
Well, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. Still, it's not my fault we're going to be eaten by worms. Speaking of, can you see anything?
Not much. They're just there.
How many?
Too many. And more keep coming up through the floor. I didn't think they could get through.
Prentice?
No, I can't. Oh, there she is.
What's she doing?
I don't know. She's messing with the boxes. She's holding one up and... Oh.
What?
She's destroying them. Sort of.
Sort of.
Well, I don't really know what the stuff coming out of her mouth is, but I think we should probably burn them.
Right. Why are you here, Martin?
Well, Prentice is out there and you can't run.
I mean
so
in the archive, in general. Why haven't you quit?
Are you giving me my review now?
No. We're clearly doing a whole heart-to-heart thing, and truth be told, the question's been bothering me. You've been living in the archives for 4 months. Constant threat of this, sleeping with a fire extinguisher and a corkscrew. Even you must be aware that that's not normal for an archiving job. Why are you still here?
Don't really know. I just am. It didn't feel right to just leave. I've typed up a few resignation letters, but I just couldn't bring myself to hand them in. I'm trapped here. It's like I can't move on, and the more I struggle, the more I'm stuck.
Martin, you're not... You didn't die here, did you?
What? No, what?
No, just the way you phrased that.
Made you think I was a ghost?
No, it's...
No, that's just... Whatever web these statements have caught you in, well, I'm there too. We all are, I think. A ghost? Really?
Shut up, Martin.
Right, tell me again,
You're
please.
kidding!
You did bring a tape recorder. I just thought John would appreciate as many supplementary recordings as possible for the record.
Well, for the record, if we don't do something now, it won't matter either way.
So, these are the worms he and
The
Martin have been
ones
going on.
terrorising us for months, yes.
To be honest, I always thought they were just overreacting. Other staff have seen them around, but no one's reported any aggressive behaviour or anything like that. You know how those two are. John puts on a good show, but sometimes I swear he's worse than Martin.
Look, Elias, I don't know what you think is going on, but I have just seen thousands of flesh worms pouring out of the wall. God knows how long they've been hiding. Tim might be dead, and the others...
Well, of course. The fire alarm was a good move, but it does mean most staff have evacuated, so we'll have to deal with them ourselves.
There are thousands of them, Elias.
Not quite what I meant. On John's insistence, I recently changed the archive's fire suppression system to use carbon dioxide. I should have done it
So
years ago.
why hasn't
really,
it
but
gone off?
Because there isn't an actual fire.
Right. Can we set it off manually? I think John's got a lighter somewhere.
He's not smoking again, is he? Anyway, it shouldn't be necessary. There is a manual release a few floors down.
Wait, will it hurt Martin or John?
Almost certainly. I'm not a doctor, but I know dumping a lot of CO2 on people isn't generally considered a good idea. I really don't want to have to find another archivist so quickly after Gertrude, but from what you say, it might be a mercy. You know the situation best, so...
Let's go.
I thought that wall was meant to be solid.
So did I. We don't have any sort of weapon, do we?
I mean, I suppose we could
Don't
use...
say the corkscrew.
Okay.
How many of them are outside the door?
I don't know. I can't see because the window is covered in worms.
Right. Damn. Well, Martin, I guess this is...
Hi, guys.
Tim?
Tim?
What the hell? I thought... How did you...
You made it!
Funny story, really. I ran into the office, worms everywhere, horrible death and everything. Tripped and fell into some boxes, and there were like 20 cans of gas in there.
Are you alright? You seem a bit...
Fine, gas, bit lightheaded. Not a lot of ventilation in the tunnels. Come on.
Into the tunnels?
Yeah, actually, not that many worms in there anymore. I think they've mostly gone into the archive. Although the ones down here are faster for some reason, and quieter.
You're not bitten, are you?
No, I don't think so. Have a look.
Yes, all right, Tim. You look fine. Put them back on, please.
Can you walk, John?
No, I can limp.
Then let's go.
Martin, could you pass me the tape recorder?
Sure. I think it's running out, though.
Fine. I suppose I can turn it back on when we're being eaten alive.
Why do you have a second tape recorder, Martin?
Oh, well, I've been using it to record myself. I write poetry, and I think the tapes have a sort of lo-fi charm.
I see.
Okay, John. I know you want to know what's been happening. If you're still alive after this. The worms are on the upper floor. Not as many as down in the archive, but enough. I set the fire alarm off, so everyone's evacuated except me and Elias. I didn't see any signs of the fire brigade, but I haven't been near a window in a while. There was I guess you call it a wave of worms. I got cut off from Elias. I hope he made it to the fire system, but who knows? Maybe everyone's dead already. I've had to retreat into artifact storage. That should tell you something about how bad it is out there. God, I hate this place. Did I ever tell you I first joined the Institute as a practical researcher? I had to analyse and investigate all the stuff in here, take notes after sleeping in the rusted chair, write in the memory book, all that sort of thing. I transferred after 3 months. Would have quit, but couldn't afford to back then. Never understood why they keep this stuff secret. I mean, we've enough in here to send any skeptic packing, but it's just locked away. I asked Elias about it once, but he just muttered something about funding and mission statements. He's good at changing the subject, isn't he? Sorry, I'm rambling. No worms, though, so that's good. Oh, hey, I found that table you were talking about. Don't really see what all the fuss is about. Just a basic optical illusion. Nothing special, just wait. John, I think there's someone here. Hello? I see you. Show yourself.
I see you.
Update. I don't know how long we've been down here. These tunnels are a maze, and we don't know where we are. We have
Martin's
four
gone.
of the... I'm getting to that. Martin has disappeared. Tim was right about there being fewer worms down here, but they are much faster, more aggressive. None of us have been hit yet, but during one of the more alarming encounters, Martin ran off.
He thought we were behind him, I think.
He didn't think at all. Tim was with me, and my leg slowed me down. He must have taken a turn we didn't see or something. We lost him. But Tim has managed to find what looks to be an actual trapdoor, so we won't need to bludgeon our way through any more drywall. I'm recording this in case...
In case the trapdoor opens back into the archives and Prentice is there to kill us.
In as many words, yes. Tim.
All right.
The Magnus Archives is a podcast distributed by rustyquill.com and licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike International License. Today's episode was written and performed by Jonathan Sims. It was produced and directed by Alexander J. Newell. To comment on episodes, make donations and view links, images, videos, and show notes, visit rustyquill.com. Rate and review us on iTunes, visit us on Facebook, tweet us on Twitter @TheRustyQuill, or email us at mail@rustyquill.com. Thanks for listening.
Alright, hope you enjoyed those. I'll be back next week for the final episode in this series. I hope to see you then. Until then, take it very easy. Your loyal pipe maker.